This is a Classic Hits 4FM podcast.
I want to read you out an email. And, by the way, you will find the second topic today very, very interesting, because I have a guy coming on. He sent us an email, and he's coming on just after 2 o'clock. And basically, his wife is pregnant. She's going to have a baby. And they have a dog, 5 years of age. And he's concerned, obviously, that the dog and the baby is not going to get on. The dog has already, basically said, this is my territory. It's always a concern, by the way, when you have a baby and you already have a dog. So what he's doing is having the dog put down. He doesn't want to see the dog going to another home, because he said, I couldn't think of that. I couldn't bear to think of it. He said, I don't want to think of rehoming it, because I think it would be cruel, because it spent 5 years with us. So he thinks that would be cruel to the dog to put it into another home or pound or something. So now he's just going to get the dog put to sleep. He thinks that's the most humane thing to do. A lot of people not happy on Facebook. Go on to Facebook if you want to. There's a picture there and what have you. Text 53544 if you want to on that, or you can go to our Facebook page. It's www.facebook.com/Niall Boylan at night. But first, a very interesting email kind of went all over the internet over the weekend when I put it up on Friday. And I want you to have a listen to it. It says, Niall, I'm out of my mind with stress. I'm after getting a girl pregnant, and she's determined to have the baby, even though I've told her that I don't want to be a father. I'm 22 and she's 19 years of age, and I had a one-night stand with her a few months ago. But she approached me recently telling me that she was pregnant and that I'm 100% the father. We went to the chemist and got a clear blue digital test, and she did it. I was shocked to read pregnant 3+ weeks on it. I then decided to buy a different test in case the clear blue was wrong, but that also showed a positive and she was pregnant. I don't want to have a child, and not with her, but she says, I don't want to have a child, especially not with her. But she says she's going through it anyway, no matter what I want. Niall, I promise you that it won't be just me paying for her lifestyle, but also you and your listeners, because she's already told me that she's going to be entitled to a house off the council, and I know our family are a bunch of wasters. They're from a rough estate in Finglas and are long-term dolers, professional parasites, if you ask me. My child is just going to be used as a bookworm, born so she can get the book. Now, for those who don't know what the book is, but the book is an old term for getting single parents allowance. They used to call it a book years ago. They don't anymore. It's a kind of Dublin thing to say. He goes on to say, I have no rights. If she doesn't want to be a mother, she has the choice. But as a father, I have no choice. Not sure what I'm looking for from your show. Should I have the right to ask her to have an abortion? I'm basically at her mercy. Should this be a rights issue for fathers and made law? Now, I understand the point that he's making. He doesn't have a choice, but he doesn't have a choice because of the morals, not just because of the legalities. It's the morals of the whole thing. I completely understand that she does have a right to have an abortion. She does have the right to use more contraception if she doesn't want to get pregnant. She has all those rights. And she doesn't have to be a mother if she doesn't want to. Where he has no choice. He has dipped his wick, essentially, and now has to pay for the oil because she wants to have the baby. And he doesn't have the right not to be a father, even though he's chosen not to be a father. He doesn't have the right. And it's not because of the legalities more so, it's because of the morality of the thing, isn't it? I want to know what you think of the email. Now, I put it up on Facebook over the weekend. I got a huge reaction, actually more reaction than probably anything else we've put up in a long time. And it seems the majority of people think the emailer is completely selfish, this guy. But some people believe that he and other fathers should have the right to walk away from the responsibility. So let me put it this way. Let me just make this a little bit easier for you. If you get a girl pregnant and you say to her, I want you to get rid of that baby. I want you to have an abortion because I don't want to be a father. I'm not ready to be a father. And she says, actually, no, I don't want to do that. Fine. That's her choice. She doesn't want to have an abortion, so she's now decided she wants to be a mother and keep the baby. But you've decided you don't want to be a father. So should you have the right to walk away? She has a right. So should you? So that's the question. I want you to text 53544. That's 53544. Should men have the right to walk away without paying a penny? Yes, you believe they should have the right to walk away? Or no, you believe they don't? Now, if they're married, different situation, obviously. But should they have a right to walk away without paying a penny? Now, one man who did argue on our Facebook for the rights of men was John Gormley, who's a spokesperson for Men's Human Rights Ireland. Now, John joins me on the air. John, how are you?
I'm great, thank you very much.
John, look, I spoke to you about 6 or 7 weeks ago on this very issue, and this email is right up your alley, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Essentially, it's as simple as this. If it's allowed for women, then why isn't it allowed for men? that is what equality is at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, he did not sign up for parenthood when he had sex with her.
Mm-hmm. But see, people are going to argue, okay, the law may be on her side, but it's not just about the law. It's about the morality of it. It's about his moral obligation. Does he not have a moral duty to stay with her?
I think we all have moral obligations, but really, at the end of the day, I mean, for us, it's legal issues. According to our legal system, he has no rights in this. He has no rights even after the baby's born, if it is born. Mm-hmm. She has all the choices. He has none. That's where we are coming at this from. Basically, what we believe is that, I mean, the only way to have equality is a case where he has that choice to say, I don't want to be a father. I don't have to be a father if I choose not to be.
But he went and had sex with her, clearly without protection.
Absolutely, but he did not sign up for fatherhood.
But he did the night he jumped into bed and decided not to wear a condom.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, the same thing applies to herself. I mean, where do we draw the line here? And I mean, she has a choice after that. She could take the after morning pill. She could have taken the pill beforehand and told him that she was on the pill.
So essentially, you believe, John, that you believe legally he should have the right to say to her, this girl in the email from Finglas, he should have the right to say to her, basically, I want to have nothing more to do with you or the baby. I'll see you. I'm off. I'm out of here.
If that's what he wishes to do, and yes, I don't see a reason why not. I mean, if she has the right to go along and say to him, I'm getting rid of this baby, I'm not asking you your opinion on it, you have no options or choice in this whatsoever, or I'm going to go along and have this baby adopted out. Mm-hmm. You have no rights or options in this whatsoever. So why can't a man go along and say, I don't want anything to do with this child? I just don't see a reason why not.
And do you believe the law should be changed in this part to reflect this?
What I think is that more people should be looking at this much more closely. The issues around fathers' rights as a complete picture.
I mean, I'm with you 100% on fathers' rights, and I do believe that men in this country get a raw deal when it comes to rights, particularly when it comes to custody orders and family law issues and stuff like that. And I do believe that the current legislation going through the Dáil for July, the new Child and Family Act, is not going to rectify any of that. It's actually probably going to make parts of it worse, to be honest with you.
Far worse, yes.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to make any... I think that women will always be favoured when it comes to family law, and I think that comes down to moral issues like maternal instincts and stuff like that. I think the judges are always going to come down on the side of women, and I've seen children being given in custody to alcoholic women, and we had a guy on the show the other day whose wife was an alcoholic, crying his eyes out on the air because he couldn't get custody of his children, which is a shocking situation. But in this kind of situation, on one hand, you're saying that we have to, I mean, the law basically states that we have to respect the rights of the child. That's the most important thing, right? Now, this is an unborn child. The law will have us believe, under the Constitution of this country, this child has exactly the same rights as you have. That's why we have the Eighth Amendment. So that child, John, has the same rights that you have, even though it's not born yet. That child has the same rights you have, legally. So if
the child has no right to have a father.
But the child does have a right to a father.
Not according to our Constitution.
Yeah,
I've read the Constitution.
The child is that unborn child has exactly the same rights as you and me, according to the law at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. I would like to see parts of the law changed to reflect, for example, we're talking about pro-choice and pro-life and the abortion referendum and all that in the future. But as it stands at the moment, according to the law, that child has the same rights that you do. Now, you have a right to have a father, and you have a right to know who your father is. So you have rights.
I'm not aware where you actually have the right to know who your father is, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. That's not what I understand it to be. I mean, there's quite a few men out there and women as well, who do not know who their father is. Mm-hmm. There's an awful lot of people out there who've had sex with different partners and don't actually know who the father is. So no, you don't actually have a right to know who your father is. So you might have.
I'm not disagreeing with you. There are people in that situation, but let's not legally advocate that and say that's a good idea, and we should go forward with that and say, yeah, well, legally, guys should be able to walk away and not even have a name written down on a piece of paper.
Yes, they should.
Okay, well, stay there for a second. I want to go to Barbara in Dublin. Just if you want to give us a call on this, John Gormley is a spokesperson for Men's Human Rights Ireland. They have a Facebook page, by the way, if you want to go onto it. And basically what they're saying is that, a guy should have the right to walk away from a pregnant woman if he wants to. That should be his legal right. Choose not to be a father. If you want to give us a call, the number is 1850 410 494. Tom, you're in Galway, you're on Classic Hits. How are you? There you go. Oh, sorry about that, Tom. I apologise. Go ahead, Tom. Tom, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
I can indeed, yeah, far away.
Oh, yeah, he should take responsibility. He knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where's all this thing coming from? He doesn't want to have anything got to do with the child at this stage, or, you know, it might, thinking of it, even if he does walk away, it's the taxpayer that will pick up the tab anyway.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah, of course.
You know, regardless, so I don't know what, he knew what he was doing that night and he was hopping into bed, you know. And this thing in this country where there's no father's name on the birth cert, I don't know who the dad is. You know, it's kind of a crazy system. But what he's trying to say, he's a bit of a coward in the sense that, you know, he doesn't want anything to do with the child. You know, he knew what he was doing on the same night. He should have some kind of protection. He knew what he was doing. So stand up.
And be counted.
Plate, you know?
Yeah, but hold on. But see, essentially John Gormley agrees with you from a moral point of view. Yeah, he has been a coward. Yeah, he's not sticking up for his responsibilities. But in saying that, John believes that because a woman has the right, like that girl that's pregnant, if she wants to, she can have an abortion. So she doesn't have to be a mother. She has a choice. But so why can't he have a choice is the point he's making.
That's the kind of a... Why did he get into that situation in the first place? I know it's a kind of a... You know, women do have so much of the law on their side anyway. Always will and always will have, you know.
But is that right? What about equality? What about equality and women demanding equality? Where's the equality then? That's
what I'm saying. It's the woman has most of the clout and shout. There should be something there for them in what? I don't know. You know, this seems to be happening on a regular basis now where all of a sudden, like, even if this hadn't come up and he walked away anyway, the state would have looked after her and the child. You know, but where he's coming from like, hang on, I had a bit of fun, you know, I don't want nothing to do with the child. You know, I just kind of see where he's coming from and, you know, you shouldn't have got himself into that situation in the first place. But as men's rights, I think this country will never give men the right, like when it comes to, you know, when it comes to kids and marriage, like, it's the law seems to be on the women's side. You know, in most cases.
Well, then, essentially, then you're being, and I'm not having a pop at you, but you're being a bit of a hypocrite because you're giving out that men don't have rights, and on the other hand, you're saying that this guy should be legally obliged to step up to the plate.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Maybe,
man up, that's the phrase keep on using.
Sorry, John?
They keep on using that phrase, man up, but they won't give any man any privilege to go with it, for example, like having that choice to do what it is that needs doing. I mean, it's supposed to be, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be equality. Everything that we're talking about these days about women's equality, we're not talking about some men's equality. Why should a man be forced to be a parent when he does not want to be? You cannot force a woman to be a parent if she doesn't want to be, but you can force a man to be. I mean, that's not an issue we're making. Basically, men have no options. Even after, if she gives birth, she does not have to go along and show the child to the man. She can say, you're a father, tough shit, you're not going to go along and say, this child again, tough. And he has no say in the matter whatsoever. He can go to court, and the court will laugh at him. This new legislation will say to him that he should actually live with the woman for a year before he's granted
guardianship.
Custody,
guardianship.
And that's crap.
John, just a moment, John. So what are you actually saying? What kind of rights do you want men to have?
The same rights women have. The right to go on and choose not to be a father.
So, in other words, if I get a girl pregnant tomorrow, Tom, you know, and she's 19 or 20 years of age, and I say to her, listen, you know, I don't want to be a father. Yeah, you can be a mother if you want to, but I don't want to be a father. So I tell you what, here's a few quid if you want to go off to, you know, Liverpool and have an abortion. But if you don't and you want to keep the baby, that's your choice. But I don't want to have anything to do with you. See, yeah, I'm off, and I don't owe you any money either.
Well, yeah. It's happening regardless anyway. But I suppose, I'm looking at it that way now, that if he doesn't want to be a dad and he's going to be a bad dad, maybe it's a good idea to give them the right, you know.
Okay, so you think John is right then? John Gormley is right, that maybe men should have the rights?
Yeah, I should think so, yeah.
Okay, we'll stay there for a second, guys. John, you're swinging people in your direction here. I'm looking at some of the texts coming in. Somebody says here in the text, no, I have to be honest, I'm listening to this guy in the air, and initially I thought he was crazy. But I'm now coming around to his way of thinking. When you think about it logically, men have absolutely no rights whatsoever. I got a girl pregnant many years ago. I have never seen the child, but recently she's been demanding money of me. I don't even know the child. I don't want to see the child, and she cannot force me. But clearly the law states that she can, and she shouldn't be able to. Another person says it's quite clear that in the first place this young buck shouldn't have been having sex if he doesn't know the consequences of having unprotected sex. But first, answer this. If her family are as bad as he makes out, why did he even sleep her in the first place? I don't know, maybe it was a quick one. Barbara, you're in Dublin, you're on Classic Hits. How are you, Barbara?
Hi, Niall. I'm probably one of them girls. I tell you, I have two situations here. I was in a long-term relationship, and then I became pregnant. That's 24 years ago. And I told him, and I knew by his face, for 4 years down the line, he wasn't happy. So get him the choice. You don't have to be here if you don't want to be. And I had been with this guy for 15 years, so he walked away. So I was on my own for a while, and of course, had a one-night stand, and as a result, I became pregnant. And at the outcome, I said, because it was a one-night stand, I knew what I was doing. It was stupidity, but I gave him the choice, and he walked away. But I was happy to give him that choice because, as I said, I saw 4 years of unhappiness in another man's eyes because he didn't want to be a father. It was too early for him, you know?
Yeah.
But now I wasn't going to put any man through that, and I made it a choice. I mean, I have two kids. They're two great kids. They're my kids. They're no one else's kids. And I made that, but I wouldn't unnecessarily. Why would you do that, even to a child? You know, you could be begging a man to stick around, and you have to do this, and you have, and I need money for this. It's going to make a person very unhappy, and the child will be very unhappy as well, you know. But what I did was, like, I went it alone, and it worked out great for me. You know, I just wasn't a demanding type of person. But I had saw the 4 years of where a man stayed in a situation with me, but was very unhappy, so that made us all unhappy. So I gave him the choice then, and he went away, you know.
Yeah, but do you believe that a man should... I mean, John, I understand the situation you're in, right, and you were in, but John Gormley believes that a man should have the legal right. And I do understand what he's saying. I mean, if women are the ones who are demanding that men or that women should have equal rights to men, and I agree completely, everybody should have equal rights, right? You know, except when it comes to physical things, sometimes, you know, when we look at generalisations, generally speaking, men are stronger physically than women, right? So there's always going to be limits to you know, to the physicality of people. But in relation to, say, our legal rights, I mean, if I got you pregnant tomorrow, Barbara, and I said to you, I don't want to be the father of your child. We had a great night. Look, it was a wonderful night. I don't want to be the father of your child. Will you go and have an abortion? You say, well, actually, no, I don't want to have an abortion. I'd say, well, that's fine. I'll see you so. That's your choice. Yeah, well, you want to keep the child.
Yeah, and as I explained, my second pregnancy was exactly that.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't given a choice for an abortion or anything. It wouldn't have even entered in my head. I mean, common sense will tell you, as a result, you're either going to get pregnant or you're not, even though you didn't set out to do that.
So are you agreeing with John Gormley, essentially, that men should have the right to walk away?
Not in a long-term relationship. I get in the choice for a long-term relationship, no, but in a short-term, like a one-night...
But who decides how long the relationship is?
Well, I mean, one night is not a relationship, Niall. You know what I mean?
Well, let me put that to John. Okay, so John, maybe you know, there's some sort of guidelines here. So, I mean, if somebody's with somebody 4 or 5 years...
I was about to go on saying that basically, if I'm in a relationship with a woman, for example, and she decides tomorrow to go out and have an abortion, I have no say in that. Even if we're married, she goes over to the UK, I can't stop her. So I don't know what the answer to that one is. I mean, I cannot stop any woman from going and doing anything she wants to do. If she wants to nip over to the UK, have an abortion, and come back, there is nothing that I can do, even married or not married, nothing we can do. So, basically, when it boils down to it, I don't see why any man cannot go on and say, I want nothing to do with this child, married, unmarried, or anything like that. There's no reason why not.
All right, listen.
Hang
on a second. Do me a favour and wait there for a second, because I've got to take a break, and I want loads of people to give us a call on this one, because it's a very interesting topic. I do find it extremely interesting, and I understand exactly the point. A lot of people are very angry, by the way, with John at the moment. They're texting in, going berserk, as they did on Facebook over the weekend. But I think you're missing the point that he's making. Now, you know, you could answer morally and say, no, he's wrong. But on a legal point of view, he has to be right. He has to be. I mean, because a woman has rights. So surely a man should have rights. The only difference is that she's carrying the child. So there's a moral argument whether you agree with pro-life or pro-choice, essentially, in this, in some sense. I mean, there is a facility there, legally, in this country for her to have an abortion. You can't have it in this country, but you can just jump on a plane. It only takes 3 hours to get there and 3 hours to get back. So there is a facility to have an abortion. There's also a facility to take the morning after pill. There's also a facility to use contraception. And yes, you could argue the same about the guy. But if the two of them have been irresponsible and had sex with no contraception and she gets pregnant, should he have the right to walk away? John believes legally he should and never have to pay her a penny maintenance. That should be his right, legally, because she has the right to walk away from a pregnancy if she wants to. So I'm asking you, should have a man have the right to legally walk away from a pregnancy? With the greatest respect to John, it's something that we are forgetting about lately. With all the feminist movement and certainly a lot of propaganda that's put out by the crazy feminists out there. And there is a lot of propaganda. I was reading a story there recently about a child in America or in Australia was kicked by a kangaroo. I swear to God, you wouldn't believe this story. She's kicked by a kangaroo and she's got a big kind of footprint across her face. It's like a big bruise on her face. Her picture was used across the internet by the feminist movement to say that she was beaten in school by 4 boys who got away with it. And they were talking about this being the matriarchy and all this kind of nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But I guess there's a lot of feminist propaganda. So the point that John has made is men are being forgotten about. And he wants rights to change for men as well. That if women want equal rights, well, so do men. In other words, when it comes to, fathering a child, he believes a man should have the right to walk away. A lot of people not happy about his comments. Let me just read out some of the topics or the comments. Somebody says, Niall, he has absolutely no point or argument at all. The only right a man has is the right to wear a condom. When he chooses not to wear a condom, he chooses to accept the financial responsibility of having impregnated her. It is that simple. He is the impregnator. He makes one of 2 choices: to slip on a condom or open his wallet. That comes in from John. Yes, I'm glad I read the end of that. Another person says, no, this guy John is a complete and utter loony. Another person says, a guy that gets a girl pregnant and dumps her is nothing but scum. Well, there you go. Well, when you use the word dump, it does sound pretty bad, doesn't it? You could say just leaves her. Keep texting 53544. By the way, John, how far do you go with these men's rights? Is there other men's rights you'd like to see us have as well?
Essentially what it is, whatever rights women have, what I see men have. That's really basically it.
We're not the same, John. We can't get pregnant.
Of course not, no. But a lot of things that we can do, for example, we can have the same access to children, for example, which we don't have at the moment. Mm-hmm. I'm a happily married man, by the way, and we have a beautiful son who's 11 years old. So
you were accused on Facebook of being a misogynist.
Oh, I get that all the time. As soon as you dare fight for the issue of men's rights and become a misogynist asshole who hates women.
It seems to be the way, all right. I've been called it a few times myself. Mairead, you're in Dublin, you're on Classic Hits. How are you, Mairead?
Hi, Niall.
How you doing, Mairead? What would you like to say?
I think he's been totally selfish not to use a condom. He's only thinking of his own satisfaction, and then he wants to walk away if the worst happens.
Well,
and he's trivialising abortion as though it was just a little thing to be got rid of.
Well, I don't think he's trivialising it. Well, he can answer for himself. Are you trivialising it?
Contraceptive.
Are you trivialising abortion?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. That's not true. I have said is that they have the option to go have an abortion if they so choose. I'm not saying that they should. I'm saying the option is there for them.
And what's the option for you? What's the option for you to do nothing? You should, if it was you who did this to a girl, you should have to support that child, and you wouldn't get away with it in the States. It's the law.
The point is that
to be the father, you have to pay up or do the right thing.
Well, it's like this: if it's allowed for women, it should be allowed for men.
That's ridiculous. That's a childish way of looking at life.
It is not a childish way of looking at it. It's a very, very straightforward way of looking at it. You don't have to face up your
responsibilities.
I don't think it's that simple. I mean, if you want to go on talking about...
Do you think carrying a child for 9 months is a piece of cake and giving birth?
But Mairead, the point he's making is that the woman has the choice to carry the child for 9 months.
No, but an abortion isn't any easier.
You're right. But I know you're anti-abortion, Mairead, and that's fine.
I'm anti-abortion.
But this is not a pro-life. This is not a pro-life, pro-choice argument.
No, I don't judge people, but he's trivialising a woman being pregnant. That just, if it doesn't suit you, just get rid of it.
But that's a fact of life. I know the wording that you're using there sounds a bit flippant, but that is the fact of life. If you don't want to be pregnant, you don't have to be.
It's the traumatic effect it has on the woman as well. And what about when the child grows up and becomes a teenager, when most of them do, whether they're adopted or if they're a single, they want to know who their father is. And that can have an awful effect on a child.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the tweets, by the way, coming in. Kevin O'Sullivan says, I've watched childbirth. I never want to be equal. You're right, actually, Kevin. I wouldn't want to have a baby. He says he has no point. We are not equal until a man can give birth. We will never be equal.
Exactly. But when they can get a womb transplant, everything will be equal.
But I do understand. I don't understand morally where he's coming from. I think men have a moral obligation, right? And I agree, probably in that sense. But I do. But hang on, Mairead. I do legally see where he's coming from.
Yeah, it's not that easy for a girl to get a house nowadays just because they're pregnant. I think people should check into that.
Well, I think the more babies they have, the better house they're going to get, probably.
Or they won't get a house. There are no houses nowadays.
Well, there are. It depends on your priority and how far you're up the list. I know people who are getting houses because they have babies, Mairead.
Child, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's not get into that today. But in relation to this particular email, I'm at John, who is a spokesperson for Men's Human Rights Ireland.
I love them.
Yeah, well, what he's saying... no, I mean...
So hard done,
Mairead, in a nutshell there. The point he's making is that women do have that choice, Mairead. They do have a choice to walk away from motherhood.
Of course they have a choice, but it's not always a good choice for some women to make.
Okay, but I mean, John, that is a fair point. You're forcing her to make Well, hang on, John. You're saying she can go and have an abortion. You're forcing her to make a choice that may be against her moral conscience.
But she has a choice to go along and do the same thing. I mean, she can actually go along and choose, I'm going to have an abortion, I'm not going to have an abortion, I'm going to make you a father, I'm not going to make you a father. That is her choice. She has that option. Men do not have that option.
Okay, well, do me a favour. Stay there for a second, Mairead. Let me go to Pat. Pat, you're in Cork. You're on Classic Hits. How are you, Pat?
I am. Fine yourself.
Good man, Pat. What would you like to see? Do you believe that men should have the rights to walk away from a pregnant woman?
No. That man, John, is talking through his back of his head, if you like the tone of that.
Okay.
No. How far down the line has it got to go that a guy can walk down and just keep on pulling up his zip and letting the bird put up with a problem? Oh, I don't want the kid. How long is that going to last?
Well, according to John, he should be able to indefinitely keep doing it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. And I think it's an absolute disgrace. But somebody has got an attitude like that. Is this? Oh, well, I don't want the kid. It's yours. You get on with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's no rights to that. There is, this rights bullshit is too much now. There's rights for this, rights for that. Everything's a right now.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? There's too much of it now. Too much nonsense. And that's just ridiculous. And any guy that shirks responsibility like that, he has a few drinks, jumps into the sack with a girl, and the next thing she's pregnant, well, he must take responsibility for as well. Not, well, I've got the right now to walk away. No. The law should run its course, be like the States, be a lot of countries, and they'll lock him up and send him to a work colony where he'll support that kid. Simple as that.
So basically, if he doesn't want to pay up, force him to pay up.
He will be.
Yeah.
They'll put him in a work colony.
Put him in a work colony.
Labour. Or take off his pay, whatever, if he's got a job. But normally scumbags like that haven't even got a job.
Well, there you go. Pretty much Pat has said, a scumbag would walk away from his responsibilities, John.
Well, exactly. Well, you're trying to make even a...
He thinks what you're saying is funny, by the way. I can hear him giggling in the background there.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, this is going to end up in one big arguing match, and I'm working at the moment, so I can put up with nonsense. But, tell him to pull up his pants and give his mouth a chance, man.
Yeah, well, hang on, just let him respond to you anyway, just very quickly if I can, Pat. I mean, there you go. Pat has basically said you have a responsibility. You can't just walk around this world pulling your zip up and walking your way.
You can't just pull up your zip and say, well, thanks for the nice time, and off you go into the sunset. Nah, come on, there's got to be an end to that lot. What right? When it comes to, there's no rights like that. You either put up with it or you got to pay for it. That's it.
Yeah, what we always say in this country, pal, is you dip your wick, you pay for the oil.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I know. But, hey,
Never heard it. Well, that's not the type of one they would use. Where are you from? Where are you from? South Africa, pal, is it?
I'm South African, yeah.
Yeah, well, do they have a saying over there? No, they don't have a saying.
No, the guys mostly, what I don't know about, it's a vast population, but most guys in my situation would, we did the same thing. You don't just walk away. The kid's got rights too. The baby's unborn, so what are you going to do? Throw it out the window or have an abortion?
No, we're going to have an abortion, yeah.
All right, that's coming to the same issue again.
Or have the child adopted out.
Oh, sorry, John, or adopt the child out.
That's one of the other things that has been forgotten about here. But who's going to pay for the child after it's been adopted out? That's new parents.
Never mind who's going to pay for what. The problem is you're dealing with an unborn child there. Just poof, something get rid of it. You know what I mean? Everything's gone to pot around here. Really, excuse the pun, but it really has. It's gone crazy.
Morality's out the window, Pat, isn't it?
Exactly. Morals have gone out the bloody window for the sake of rights. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a fair point, John. And this is the point I said, John. Legally, I probably agree with you, John, but morally, I think you're wrong.
No, morally, it's completely wrong. You can prove a lot of things. There's a formula you can put to it, but when it comes to the punchline or the end of the full story, that's it. The morality of the whole situation.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it, John. Morality. You've got to think of the morality.
Yeah. For us, it's a very, very, very simple thing. If it's allowed for women, it should be allowed for men. That's it. There's no other way of looking at this.
I don't know what's your gripe is allowed for women. What is your gripe with women's rights? Huh? Just stand up and have broad shoulders and accept it, man.
Man up.
Yeah, man up. What's one's rights the same as a woman? What bloody rights? What were you talking about, man?
Well, if you are with a woman and she decides...
What rights?
No, hang on. Let him finish, Pat. Let him finish what he's saying. Go ahead.
If you're with a woman and you have sex with her and she becomes pregnant, she has the option... Let me finish. She has the option of going along and having the after morning pill. She can have an abortion. She can give that child away. She can go along and not allow you access to that child at all. Where's her responsibilities? Why are you not going along and saying that she should have responsibilities as well?
That's her rights. Yeah, okay. So that's rights again. There's the morality.
In Ireland, we have no rights here as fathers. Nothing.
Well,
the new legislation we brought in. The new legislation we brought in very, very shortly will give us even less rights than we had before.
But what you want is in law a right to abandon a pregnant woman.
That's what he's saying.
That's what he wants. Yeah.
That's what he wants. So let's have a. I tell you what, have a.
That's really what you're asking for, John, isn't it? The right to abandon a pregnant woman.
What I'm asking is you opt out of fatherhood if you need.
The opt out, yeah, opt out.
So have a vote about that, Niall.
Yeah.
Put up a vote. Would you like that or wouldn't you? Your normal poll that you have there.
Yeah.
Who's in favour of it? How many are in favour of to abandon the child? Yeah, that's it. Put that up on your poll and let's see what happens.
All right, thanks for that, Pat. I know you're busy more. Go on.
Women have the right to opt out of motherhood.
But see, John, everybody essentially agrees with the point you're making from a legal point of view, right? And I'd be the first one to fight for men's rights, right? And I think Pat is saying, all about the rights, and it's all about rights nowadays. And yes, you're right. Legally speaking, we probably should,
it's also
right?
a responsibility as well.
And I talk about this all the time when we talk about rape, for example, and the laws around rape. They favour women, without a shadow of a doubt, that women have more rights. Two drunk people sleep together, have sex. The man can be accused of rape, but the woman is never accused of rape, all right? So, yes, women do have more rights. But the reason is, there's a moral argument to it. That, the guy can walk away. He can't get pregnant. So a woman has to make a choice. The guy doesn't really have to make a choice. So you're missing the moral argument.
Well, the men do want children as well.
I know. But by the way, can I just say here, 90% of men would stand by that pregnant woman and would be happy to pay for the child. But there is the 10% who would, if we had the opportunity, like you're suggesting, would happily walk away and not pay a penny.
Yes, they probably would. But this for us is a simple case of equality. If women have the option, men should have that same option. It's that simple. I don't see why war is a big issue here.
Sorry, Pat, what are you trying to say there? Go ahead.
Now, look, I must move on, I'm on the road and I must drive, and
okay.
I
know he's getting you angry apart from anything else, Pat.
No. Just that let's put out a poll and see how it goes.
I am. I'm going to put a poll out, Pat, just for you and see how it goes. Let me go to Donald. Stay there, Mairead. Donald, you're in Tipperary. You're in Classic Hits. How are you, Donald?
How are you doing? Niall, I agree with the chap there, Paul Gormley, to a lot of extent, but I don't agree with him on this.
John Gormley, not Paul Connolly.
John Gormley.
Paul Connolly's on TV3.
Oh, sorry. Niall, I'm a single parent, okay? And for years, my son now, he's 15, but for years I paid maintenance for him, okay? Now I have him with me. Twice I've been in the district court, and now I've appealed to the circuit court. I cannot get his mother to pay maintenance. Because that's just the way it is. A man has no rights in court.
Look, I accept that. I think John accepts. Actually, do me a favour, John. Wait there for a second, because I have to take a quick break, but I'm going to come straight back to you after the break, I promise. And I know you've been waiting ages, but I'm kind of gone behind a bit on breaks. If you want to give us a call on this, you can. The number's 1850 410 494. Okay, Pat has asked us to take a poll. Let's take a poll. How many men listening today, this is just for men, okay? You've just found out a girl, you had a one-night stand, right? And she's pregnant. How many men would like the right to walk away? Or do you believe you have a moral obligation to stay? So do you agree with John Gormley that you should have a legal right to walk away? If you want to, now you probably wouldn't, but that you should have that legal right. Or you're thinking, no, you should be obliged by law to stay with that girl. Not stay with her, but pay, maintain that child. Text 53544. Should you legally have the right to walk away? By the way, just to mention as well, at 2:30 today, a bit of radio history, I suppose, in some sense, thanks to the memory of Tony Fenton, who, as you know, passed away last week. At 2:30 today, every single radio station in the country will be playing the same song at the same time. Now, I know it's a talk show, but out of respect, we are going to play the song, of course. Say a Little Prayer for You by Aretha Franklin, because it was Tony Fenton's favourite song. So every radio station in the country will be playing the song at the same time, which I think is really nice. And it's a nice way to remember him, I suppose, Tony Fenton. And I was quite surprised, by the way. I was actually quite disappointed the other night, and I put it up on Facebook, a lot of people reacting to it, that the Late Late Show never even mentioned him. Now, I didn't expect him to get a full show like Jerry Ryan did. I know Jerry Ryan was a bigger celebrity, probably in some sense, than Tony Fenton. But he is part of Irish media. He was there for the first 2 radio stations of the country. And I was quite surprised to see the Late Late Show didn't even give it a 5-second mention. Not even a mention. Very disappointing. Very, very disappointed, RT. Considering he worked there for 18 years and they had other numpties on the same night. I mean, look, let's be honest, the Late Late Show is a shit show anyway. I mean, it wouldn't have made a huge amount of difference to dedicate 5 minutes of it to the death of Tony Fenton. All right, listen, we want to just go to Donald, back to Donald if I can. Sorry, Donald, you were saying, so you're a single parent yourself and you don't get any maintenance. You get no maintenance.
No, I don't. And I made the point to the district judge last time, that there's men on the dole and some of them are paying as much as €50 a week. But this is the argument my ex gave, that she was on the door and she couldn't afford. But to get on to something else, I think we're missing the point. Whether you're in a long-term relationship or a short-term relationship, if 2 people have consensual sex together, they have a duty, not to themselves. I understand this man's email, he doesn't want to stand by this woman. It's not to stand by the woman, it's to stand by his child. This is the argument, and it's the child. Nobody, since this show has been on 2 o'clock, I don't think the child has been mentioned.
Well, let me put that to John. John, okay, you may not have you shouldn't have a moral obligation to stand by the woman, which you don't, by the way, but you should have a moral obligation and a legal obligation to stand by the child, John.
Well, I mean, here we are back to morals again. Let's talk about the morals of women. I mean, how many women actually go along and deny fathers access? I mean, how many women actually approach fathers this and say, "Listen, I'm going to have an abortion." Well, tough shit. Off I go. Adios.
But John, sorry, you're missing the point, John. Hello?
I am not missing the point at all. Hello?
Could I just say this to you, John? I agree with you totally. Women can do whatever they want when it comes to men not seeing their kids and everything else like that. But why should we join them? Why should we just be as bad as them?
Right.
I am not suggesting that men are as bad as... Sorry, 1 second. It sounds kind of funny here.
No, but what you're saying is that you're saying, John, that the law is stacked against men when it comes to the family law courts, and nobody is disagreeing with you, right? Of course they are. 85% or 90% of cases go in favour of women, but that's wrong. So, but what you're basically endorsing is another wrong, is something else that we believe morally should be wrong. Which is a guy walking away from his unborn child.
If it is his child.
Well, if it is his child, yeah.
There's no actual way of knowing him.
Well, there is if we get a DNA test done.
Yeah, that's after the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, it boils down to a very simple thing for us. I mean, is that equal rights means equal rights, equal responsibility, equal consequences. So,
see, I don't agree with him morally, Donald, but legally I agree with him. I mean, I wouldn't be the guy that would walk away from the girl, nor would you. But the point is, I legally should have the right to.
Okay, Niall, I'll put it this way, so legally, so. If this man walks away from this child, and if it's what he says in his email is true, that she's a bit of a waster and everything else like that. Yeah. Okay, who is going to pay for this child?
The state is going to pay for this child. Yeah.
No, that's not right. It's just simply not right. The state shouldn't pay for my child. I pay for my child. I mean, I was told I should go away into the dole office and try to get money for my son. But I won't, because it's my responsibility to pay for my son and his mother. Now, I'm part of his mother hasn't met them responsibilities. Yeah. But it's definitely not your responsibility now to pay for my son.
But just before I go into the break, because Mairead, I mean, I think the point that I made is, and I think most men would, and I'm looking here at our text poll that Pat asked us to run, most men would stick with the baby, right? I'm looking here, okay? But as John keeps typing in, condom versus wallet. In other words, he said condom versus wallet. He said, will you ask that brain-dead guy, ask him, does he grasp the difference between the choice of a condom and the choice of a wallet? Ask him that. Ask him. He keeps saying. Yeah, but I mean, legally, Mairead, very quickly, legally, morally, I agree with you. Legally, I agree with John. See, this is the problem I have here.
Well, who does he want? He doesn't mind the state paying for the child then.
Well, I don't think he wants anybody paying for the child.
Like he can just...
I think he thinks that the woman should have an abortion if he thinks she should.
50% of his genes.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the problem. This is what it comes down to, John, that the state ultimately picks up the tab when you walk away.
Well,
what if he had a daughter?
I don't know how to answer that question.
And someone abandoned her.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, John, and I understand your legal rights argument, but if you walk away and she decides to keep the baby, I'm paying for it, not you.
Well,
as a taxpayer,
I would actually. As a taxpayer, I'll be paying for it as well.
Yeah, well. By the way, John wants to know before we go into news the answer to that question. He asked a question there. But first of all, the first question he asked is he brain dead? And he said, ask him, does he grasp the difference between the choice of a condom and the choice of a wallet? Ask him that. In other words, you do have a choice. Your choice is to wear a condom.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always worn them myself, but in the past, and now I'm happily married, so I don't need to worry about it anymore. Well, I mean, the same thing could actually be asked of women. I mean, why don't women go along and take those precautions? I mean, and not get pregnant. I mean, there's more than enough information out there for women to know that they can become pregnant if needed or if not wanted.
Okay, well, listen, you're probably right. But look, I've a few more callers I'm trying to get to after the break if I can. I do want to move on after the break, of course, this guy who's getting his dog put down too because his wife is having a baby. If you want to give us a call, you can. The number's 1850 410 494. I've got to thank John Gormley, who's the spokesperson for Men's Rights Ireland. You can check out their Facebook page and their website if you like.
This is a Classic Hits 4FM podcast.